sold to an amazing transformation that changed her life forever. Rachel stood in the bustling hallway of Willow Creek Hospital, her scrubs soaked with a day's sweat and worry. The flickering fluorescent lights overhead mirrored her inner turmoil, a relentless battle between ambition and obligation. 3 young faces awaited her at home, each depending on her more than even she realized. Yet, time slipped through her fingers like sand. When did she last sit down for dinner without checking her watch, or sneak in a bedtime story instead of a half-hearted goodnight? As she juggled care for her patients with the needs of her children, the relentless tide of bills loomed larger. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, admonishing her, "Family always comes first, Rachel." But how could she survive and thrive while tethered to childhood memories of struggle? "Rachel!" Dr. Hartman's booming voice broke through the noise of her racing thoughts. He stood tall, his expensive suit a stark contrast to her threadbare scrubs. His reputation as a brilliant surgeon preceded him. He was known for more than just his skills, but also for his formidable connections. A chance meeting had fluttered something deep in her, igniting a flicker of hope. But could she step out of the shadows of her life? The intensity of their brief conversation rippled through her. "I see potential in you," he had said. His words were like a lifeline, but as Rachel pondered the implications, she felt a surge of self-doubt. Could she really rise beyond the demands of her role, or would her colleagues view her as another recipient of privilege? The whispers from the break room echoed all too clearly in her head. "It's just a matter of time before she uses him to climb the ranks," they would say, dismissing the fire in her eyes as mere ambition fueled by favoritism. Yet, wasn't it ambition that had driven her this far? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Rachel began to imagine life beyond the hospital walls, a mixture of hope and apprehension brewed in her gut. The very next day, she stumbled upon a shocking revelation. A link between Dr. Hartman and her late mother emerged, a family secret that spun her world into chaos. Did he know more about her roots than she could fathom? Should she pursue the mentorship, reveling in the chance for success, even if it risked digging up old scars? The thought twisted her insides. Her identity danced on the knife's edge as she pictured her mother, who had made sacrifices in silence, seldom speaking of the past. Could she betray that legacy in the name of ambition? Caught in this storm of conflicting emotions, Rachel felt an unbearable weight pressing down as decisions loomed. Should she dare to honor her aspirations when that ambition might cost her the precious moments with her children? Each breath deepened her panic, every choice looming larger than life itself. Now, as she stood at a crossroads, uncertainty wrapped around her like a shroud. The future was a tantalizing whisper. Could it also become a painful silence? Could Rachel truly redefine her path, or would family history expose fractures she could never mend? As the tension flared, the question burned hot and bright. What price would she pay to rise? Rachel paced in the small, cluttered break room, her mind whirring with questions as she slowly unwrapped a granola bar. The sunlight streamed through the narrow window, casting a warm glow over the laminated schedules tacked to the wall. Yet the brightness did little to alleviate the heaviness in her heart. The revelation of Dr. Hartman's connection to her mother ricocheted in her thoughts, a maddening loop of possibilities that tugged at her very essence. Surely he held more than just professional interest. Could he be a key to a past she had never fully understood? With a deep breath, she tried to rein in her anxiety. She was more than a daughter, more than a nurse, and yet the echoes of her childhood merged with her adult aspirations into a dissonant symphony. "What do I want?" she whispered to herself, her reflection staring back with weary eyes. A simpler answer would have sufficed, but life had always been complex, layered with duties and expectations. Back at her workstation, Rachel was enveloped by the familiar smells of antiseptic and the distant beeping of monitors, reminders of her professional commitments. She caught sight of Dr. Hartman across the bustling floor, engaged with a group of interns. His confidence radiated as he guided them through a case study, gestures fluid and authoritative. In that moment, an undeniable want echoed in her soul. Could she truly walk alongside him in that arena? But lurking beneath was the chilling reminder of the whispers behind her, judgment laced with envy and skepticism. Rachel is just trying to climb the social ladder, they might say. The thought twisted her stomach, her innate desire to work hard and earn her place coming into painful conflict with the fear of being labeled as opportunistic. Was she merely chasing prestige, or was there a thinner line that divided necessity from ambition? An urgent thought nudged her from the shadows of her self-doubt. What if her drive was more than ambition? What if it was a way to honor her mother's sacrifices? This spark of realization ignited a determination she hadn't fully felt before. Inspiration sketched a pathway before her, waiting for Rachel to muster the courage to traverse it. Yet as she gathered her resolve, the shadows loomed larger. The risk of uncovering secrets, of perhaps having to confront truths that might shatter her perception of her family, intimidated her. Did she even have the strength to face that reality? Her fingers clutched her phone, contemplating reaching out to Dr. Hartman to directly address the connection that hovered between them. Just as she was about to follow through, a sudden commotion interrupted her thoughts. A patient's code alarm blared through the wards, shaking Rachel from her reverie. The room erupted into action as doctors and nurses scrambled. Her instincts kicked in. Without hesitation, she moved into the fray, adrenaline pushing aside her earlier fears. The urgency brought clarity. This was what she was meant to do. Each heartbeat drummed not just for survival, but for the very essence of her vocation. As she participated in the critical response, Rachel realized she was not just a caretaker of her patients, she was also a healer of her own doubts. Each shift spent in this chaotic ballet of life reaffirmed her worth, her ability to contribute meaningfully. But could success come without confronting the bonds of her past? The victorious resolution of the emergency slowly settled, but the weight of her decisions lingered. She caught Dr. Hartman's eye across the room, his expression inscrutable. The unspoken words hung between them, tempting Rachel to bridge the chasm of uncertainty with a single question. The next moment would define her future, rippling through her personal reality in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. Would Rachel dare to confront her past and reclaim her destiny? Or would she remain shackled to the legacy of those who had come before her? This choice could either lead her into the light or plunge her deeper into shadows. The next step awaited her, fraught with tension, yet pulsing with potential. What would be the price of knowledge, and could she afford to pay it? The chaos of the emergency faded into a lull, but the echoes of urgency wrapped around Rachel like a second skin. As she returned to her workstation, her heart still raced from the adrenaline, mingling with the residual clarity that had surged through her during the crisis. It was a vivid reminder. Her role was not just a job, it was her calling, a realm where she truly belonged. Yet the thought of Dr. Hartman loomed large in her mind. His confidence, his authority, qualities she admired and longed to embody. There was an undeniable connection between them, one she drifted closer to but had yet to fully explore. Turning her thoughts inward, Rachel fought the noise of doubt that threatened to drown her aspirations. What if she stepped beyond the confines of her comfort? What if honoring her mother's sacrifices meant not only pushing for personal growth, but also confronting the truth behind her mother's life? She recalled her mother, a steadfast figure whose struggles shaped the foundation of Rachel's resolve. Unearthing the past might unearth painful truths, secrets buried deep beneath years of silence. But perhaps therein lay her real power, the ability to confront her fears and emerge transformed. Gathering her courage, Rachel navigated through the bustle of the ward. She paused before Dr. Hartman's office, her breath catching. Should she knock? The pulse of uncertainty hummed in her ears. Yet every moment spent in indecision was also a moment wasted. With a deep breath, she raised her fist, poised to rattle the door. But just then, a coworker approached her, eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Rachel, we're on a new case, and the lead is up for grabs. I think you should go for it." Embedded within the compliment was also the flicker of envy from others. They felt it too, Rachel's ambition stirring the waters of their stagnant routines. "Thanks," she managed, her stomach twisting pleasantly. Yet even encouragement felt like a mixed blessing, with the potential fallout echoing in her mind. Could she step into an elevated role amid whispers of opportunism? As she stood there parsing the implications of such a choice, Rachel wondered if stepping up meant accepting more responsibility, assuming accountability for greater outcomes. This was her chance to be seen as more than just a capable nurse. She could be a leader, but the leap felt vast and precarious. "I'm going for it," she announced suddenly, surprising even herself. The boldness of her voice contrasted sharply with the storm of uncertainty within. It was a commitment to both her career and her self-worth. She was tired of second-guessing, of allowing others' judgments to define her. With newfound determination, Rachel strode into Dr. Hartman's office without knocking, a decisive rupture that sent her heart racing. "Dr. Hartman," she began, the words stumbling for purchase in her throat, "I'd like to talk to you about the upcoming case. I'm ready for more responsibility." His gaze shifted from his screen, surprise flickering across his features before clearing into something unreadable. "You're eager," he started, but she didn't let him finish. "Yes, and I need to know more about how you became who you are." The truth hung in the air, an earnest request cloaked in professional ambition, but steeped in personal inquiry. For a moment, the world outside their conversation receded into silence, and Rachel sensed that this was her pivotal moment. Would he see beyond mere ambition? Would he recognize the quest for understanding layered behind her request? Dr. Hartman leaned back, contemplative, and Rachel felt the weight of expectation building between them. His acknowledgement would validate her efforts, propel her forward, or perhaps draw her deeper into the mystery of her past. Would she gain the mentor she so desperately sought, or would the door to the past remain firmly shut? The answer loomed, pregnant with possibility, as Rachel waited for his response, the tension in the air thickening. In a heartbeat, her journey might take unexpected turns. Her to confront not only the shadows of her familial legacy, but also the path she carved for herself moving forward. What would be revealed in the moments that followed, and how would it redefine her understanding of her mother and herself? Dr. Hartman's expression shifted as he absorbed Rachel's request, his piercing gaze searching hers for signs of insincerity or perhaps the depth of her ambition. "What you're asking for isn't merely a shift in responsibility," he finally said, a hint of steel in his tone. "It requires resilience, commitment, and the capacity to navigate complex situations that can, especially in this field, affect lives." His words cut through her confidence like a knife, forcing Rachel to reconsider the weight of her statement. "I understand that," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "I want to be a part of the leadership team, to grow within this field. I can handle it." Dr. Hartman raised an eyebrow, seemingly unimpressed. "Passion is admirable, but it isn't enough. You need practical skills, a proven track record. His challenge ignited a fire within Rachel. She realized that this was not merely about recognition. This was an opportunity to prove that she was more than capable, that she could rise to the challenge, could break through the barriers that were so often imposed by doubt. "What can I do to demonstrate that?" she shot back, emboldened by the way the conversation shifted her focus from hesitation to determination. "First, I want you to shadow me on the upcoming case. Observe how I manage the team and make critical decisions. After that, you will need to present a strategy plan for the lead responsibilities." The implications of that statement hit her like a wave. She would have to watch closely, absorb not just how he led, but how he faced complications and hurdles with grace. The prospect was daunting, but it was also electric with promise. "Consider it a challenge," he added, a glimmer of approval beginning to dawn in his eyes. "I'll be honest about your performance. If you succeed, I'll advocate for your promotion to the leadership team. Fail, and we'll have to re-evaluate where you fit within this department." Rachel felt a surge of both excitement and trepidation at those words. "I won't fail," she stated, her voice imbued with conviction. As Rachel left his office, her mind fired with ideas. The air around her felt charged with possibility. She mentally cataloged the competencies she would need to sharpen. She needed to hone her assessment skills, understand the intricacies of team dynamics, and develop strategies that would benefit not only her, but the entire team and its patients. Yet she also needed to confront her mother's legacy. What did it mean to step up in a world shaped by her family's sacrifices? Over the next several days, Rachel immersed herself in preparation. The weight of her mother's expectations loomed in the background. She often caught herself reflecting on her childhood, on the sacrifices her mother made to give her better opportunities. It lit a fire within her, urging her not only succeed, but to honor those sacrifices with every decision she made. Each moment in observation turned into an analysis, and Rachel found herself absorbing every answer Dr. Hartman provided, every decision he made. She saw the subtle negotiation of leadership when egos clashed, the delicate balance of authority and empathy that flowed from his practice. Yet one afternoon, as they navigated a particularly tense meeting, Rachel heard a whispered exchange between colleagues, their murmurings slicing through her focus. "She's just riding his coattails," one said, a thinly veiled contempt coating her words. Rachel clenched her fists, the heat of indignation rising within her. Somewhere deep down, she doubted if they understood her journey, the burden that drove her. But instead of crumbling, that doubt spurred her. They would see if she could prove herself worthy, not just of their respect, but of her own. As the days progressed, each new challenge solidified her resolve. She began to sketch out her strategy plan for potential leadership, piecing together insights gained from observation and experience. Dr. Hartman had inadvertently become a mentor. Through his guidance came a new awareness of what leadership truly entailed. But as Rachel crafted her plan, the echoes of her mother's past pressed into her consciousness, demanding to be examined. The case Dr. Hartman had asked her to shadow was not just a practical exercise. It was also a mirror, reflecting choices she must confront within herself. Was she stepping toward her own dreams, or was she simply escaping the ghosts of her upbringing? The decision to face those ghosts loomed larger than any professional milestone. Here, at this intersection, Rachel stood on the brink of revelation, uncertain whether to shy away from the pain or embrace it as part of her narrative. As Rachel prepared for her presentation ahead, a sense of urgency pulsed through her veins. Would her insights not only impress Dr. Hartman, but clarify her understanding of who she was meant to be? Or would they inadvertently ignite conflicts buried within herself, driving her to confront unspoken truths? The moment of confrontation was drawing near. A choice awaited her, one that could alter not only her career trajectory, but the very essence of what legacy she wished to forge. How would she choose to wield that power? Would transforming herself lead to a final confrontation with the shadows of her past? The night before Rachel's presentation, the pressure coalesced into a tangible weight that pressed against her chest. She tossed and turned in a futile attempt to quiet the storm of thoughts swirling in her mind. Each one brought a fresh wave of anxiety, echoing the doubts that had recently emerged. She replayed the moments from her observations, dissecting every decision Dr. Hartman had made, critiquing her own understanding of leadership and her place within it. She thrust herself upward, the deep memory of her mother's face solidifying. In her thoughts, the woman who had fought tirelessly for Rachel's opportunities. That fierce determination had always inspired her, yet now it felt like a heavy chain binding her to an expectation she feared she could not meet. Was she breaking free from her mother's shadow, or merely reshaping it? When morning came, Rachel donned a sharp, professional outfit, meticulously chosen to signal her readiness and ambition. As she took the elevator down to the office, she felt the familiar tightening in her stomach. Yet amidst the anxiety, a flicker of resolve ignited. Today wasn't just about showing her competence, it was about standing in her own light, confronting the shadows that had lingered for too long, releasing the expectations she felt were thrust upon her. Arriving at the conference room, she set her laptop down, eyes scanning the space for the familiar figure of Dr. Hartman. He entered, exuding a calm authority that only deepened her determination to rise to the occasion. But as he settled into his seat, his unwavering gaze fixed on her, the room felt charged, laden with the weight of her own expectations. Rachel cleared her throat, began her presentation, and the words flowed at first like a river, powered by urgency. She detailed her strategy plan, underscoring not only the clinical approaches, but her vision of leadership, one rooted in empathy, collaboration, and the grounded understanding of those they served. The room shifted in response. She could feel the weight of observing eyes, some skeptical, others intrigued. Yet just as she dared to glance at Dr. Hartman for a sign of approval, she caught another whisper. What does she know about real leadership? Just as swiftly, doubt revived itself, creeping like vines winding around her resolve. Would she always be perceived through someone else's lens, a reflection of Dr. Hartman's guidance rather than her own worth? Pushing through, Rachel pressed on, recalling everything she absorbed during those tense meetings, every lesson learned that went beyond textbook knowledge. This was more than responsibility. It was about connection and integrity in decisions that impacted lives. The truth of her capability lay not only in her training, but in her resilience. A resilience forged not only in her professional life, but in every moment she had grappled with her mother's legacy. As she concluded, Rachel sensed a shifting atmosphere. Questions arose, challenging her assertions, testing her preparedness. With each inquiry, she recognized her fear transforming, a new confidence blossoming within her. She countered with clarity, integrating her observations and her personal experiences into compelling rebuttals, interweaving the practical with the deeply personal. When the session ended, applause erupted, but Rachel remained focused on Dr. Hartman. His expression mirrored an inscrutable mix of approval and introspection. "You've surprised me, Rachel," he said as the room began to clear. "Your insights today reflect more than just learned strategies, they show personal understanding and growth." The weight on her shoulders began to lift, yet the remnants of doubt still flickered. His praise was validating, but she realized there was still much ahead of her. As they dissected her presentation, Rachel sensed another shift looming. This was just the beginning. If she wished to solidify her place, she would need to embrace the leadership role more actively, confront the obstacles, and not merely aim for Dr. Hartman's approval, but strive for her authentic self. "I'm ready for the next step," Rachel asserted, her voice firm. "Then we will find a way to amplify your capabilities even further," he replied, intrigue igniting in his eyes. Rachel realized she stood on a precipice, a journey not only into leadership but also into unexplored aspects of her identity. What did it truly mean to be a leader grounded in her own reality rather than the reflections of others? The path ahead promised revelations, but it also threatened to unveil stark truths she wasn't fully prepared to face. As she left the conference room, a familiar tension coiled inside her. Tomorrow, they would delve deeper into the core of her ambitions, the defining moments that would mold her legacy. It was time to confront the crucible of her past and challenge the very fabric of her existence. Was she ready to face whatever awaited her in pursuit of her destiny? The following day unfolded with a crispness that hinted at change, but Rachel felt a current of anxiety wrapping around her like a tightened corset. This was the moment where she had to navigate uncharted territory, diving into the depths of her ambitions and confronting the core of what leadership meant to her. As she walked into the office, each step echoed the weight of those expectations. Dr. Hartman awaited her in his office, his presence both intimidating and encouraging. The morning light streamed through the windows, creating an almost theatrical atmosphere, lighting the path toward revelations she had long avoided. Today, we'll focus on your professional development. Let's dissect where you see your leadership qualities merging with your personal insights, he said, gesturing for her to sit. Rachel's heart raced. This was beyond the presentation. It was an exploration into untested waters, an invitation into self-discovery. She cleared her throat, ready to articulate her thoughts. "I want to lead authentically," she started, her voice steady despite the tempest in her stomach. "Not just as a reflection of what I think others expect, but rooted in my own understanding of leadership." She could feel her vulnerability emerging, but so was her authenticity. It felt refreshing yet terrifying. Dr. Hartman nodded, brow furrowed. "A strong foundation, Rachel, but what do you fear most when you think about actual leadership?" The question hung in the air. Rachel thought of her mother again, and how she'd always viewed leadership as a form of power that could overshadow or suffocate. "I fear I won't be taken seriously," she admitted, catching her breath. "That I'll always be seen as less." The honesty struck her as both liberating and burdensome, yet speaking it helped disentangle the weight from her chest. The doctor leaned back, contemplating her words. "Every great leader has faced that fear. The art is in transforming it into motivation. You need to find your voice, reject the shadows, and let that voice be heard." The suggestion ignited something within her, a vision forming not just of who she wanted to become in a professional sense, but of a woman unencumbered by self-doubt. Her thoughts whirred, realizing the depth of that possibility. She had to channel her upbringing into her success, be the embodiment of the values her mother represented without getting lost in them. "Where do I begin?" she asked, the urgency lingering in her tone. "You've taken great strides," he replied. "Now start small. Engage more in team projects. Assume roles that challenge you, and use your intuition as a guiding force. People will follow someone who leads with conviction, not just knowledge." Rachel considered this. It was more than merely stepping up. It was about fostering connections and inspiring trust, grounded in authenticity. She began mapping out possibilities in her mind, mentally contrasting the hesitance that had held her back with an image of an empowered leader, brimming with purpose and clarity. But as her fingers danced across the surface of this warm opportunity, a familiar pulse of fear radiated just beneath her confidence. What if she stumbled, made mistakes, or slipped deeper into the shadows she had long sought to escape? "Trust yourself above all else, Rachel," Dr. Hartman interjected, sensing her turmoil. "Embrace the risk. Every decision is not about right or wrong, but about growth. The obstacles can teach. Allow them to guide you." Rachel felt that spark of determination rekindle, but it mingled with trepidation. She wanted to create a legacy, but at what cost? Could she balance personal experience and professional ambitions without either suffering? Those questions tugged at her, revealing hints of her inner conflict. As she left the office, her heart raced with uncharted excitement, mingled with the confusion of an impending challenge. Would she genuinely allow herself to fail, learn, and rise armed with her experiences? Tomorrow would bring another crucial step into unmasking layers of herself that had been veiled for too long. Just as she began to feel firmly resolved, the question loomed ominously. What primal fear lay deeper than the fear of failure? Could she discover her true essence before it was too late? Rachel awoke the following morning with a renewed sense of urgency. The sun filtered through her bedroom window, illuminating the clutter of papers, the remnants of her disorganized thoughts and ambitions. Today was her first step into the unknown, armed with insights from Dr. Hartman. The lingering doubt, however, crept in. Could she truly reshape her image from invisible to inspirational? As she made her way to work, she replayed Dr. Hartman's words in her mind. Trust yourself above all else. What would that look like in practice? The answer eluded her as she entered the office, where the usual hum of activity resonated like background music. Colleagues rushed around with papers and phone calls, but she stood momentarily at the entrance, a chess piece waiting to make her move. "Rachel!" The voice of Mark, her teammate, pulled her from her reverie. He approached with a project brief in hand. "We're pulling together a pitch for those new clients. Want to take the lead?" His gaze held a mix of expectation and camaraderie. The prospect of leading stirred something deep within her. "Sure," she replied, summoning a confidence she hadn't fully grasped yet. "Let's schedule a brainstorming session for later today." As the day progressed, Rachel felt her resolve, however fragile, beginning to strengthen. She prepared for the session, crafting ideas while tapping into her vision of leadership. She imagined not merely asserting authority, but cultivating a space for collaboration and innovation, where every voice mattered equally. When the time came, she gathered the team and noticed the subtle shifts in dynamics. Each of them seemed eager but tentative. Rachel's heart raced, but adrenaline surged through her veins. "Let's create something impactful together," she encouraged, the words spilling forth as if discovering a new language. "Every idea is valuable, and I want to hear all of yours." To her surprise, her vulnerability opened doors. The team began to share not just ideas but concerns, insights reflecting their collective hesitance. As Rachel facilitated the conversation, she felt a new rhythm take form, a rhythm she hadn't expected would exist within a professional setting. However, as enthusiasm grew, so did an insidious whisper in the back of her mind, questioning her authority. What if they saw her as inexperienced, just the same as her internal dialogue had suggested all along? But she pushed through that fear, reminding herself of Dr. Hartman's wisdom about growth through obstacles. Days turned into weeks, and each meeting chipped away at Rachel's self-doubt, revealing a clearer version of who she wanted to be. Yet a lingering tension remained. Ironically, her past, the very experiences that fueled her growth, now felt like an albatross. Would they ultimately become a limitation, or could she transform those narratives into strengths? One afternoon, during a particularly intense meeting, the head of the department, Mr. Johnson, brought up a point that stung. "We can't afford to be emotional in this business." His dismissive tone echoed, cutting through the atmosphere Rachel was trying to cultivate. A wave of indignation bubbled up, challenging everything she had been striving for. But as silence enveloped the room, Rachel felt the intense scrutiny of her colleagues. This was a crucial moment, the kind that defines leaders. Did she continue to suppress that emotional side to satisfy the status quo, or would she confront his comment, risking backlash? Realization surged through her mind. What was the point of authenticity if it led to conforming to outdated perspectives? Standing up to Mr. Johnson could mean courting criticism, but could also signify a pivotal shift in her leadership journey. As the meeting dragged on, Rachel weighed her choice. Could she summon the courage to stand her ground in a world that often rejected vulnerability? Would this be the moment where she truly defined herself, or just another instance of retreating into silence? Her pulse quickened as she prepared to speak, the words teetering on the edge of her lips. It was now or never. She would either yield to fear or seize the moment for growth. "Excuse me, can I add something?" Rachel began, her voice echoing the gravity of the decision. But what would come next could either fracture her progress or herald a new chapter in reclaiming her power. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest as she met Mr. Johnson's gaze, the challenge visible in the set of his jaw. She could feel her colleagues shift slightly in their seats, the air heavy with anticipation. "I believe emotion has a place in our business," she continued, her voice steadying as she found the courage to express herself. "It's how we connect with our clients and understand their needs." The silence felt electric, necessary, as she swept her eyes across the table. Each face was a blend of surprise and curiosity, but she didn't waver. "Our humanity can enhance our professionalism. It's what can set us apart." Mr. Johnson's eyebrows shot up, his expression one of clear disapproval. "That's a risk we shouldn't take. Success here is transactional. Emotions complicate things." Her pulse quickened again, but this time not from fear. Doubt crept back in, whispering that perhaps she was swimming against an unyielding tide. Yet she pressed on, fueled by an unexpected sense of purpose. "But isn't our goal to build lasting relationships with our clients?" The words felt liberating as they left her lips. A murmur of agreement stirred amongst her team, which empowered her. She realized these weren't merely words, they forged a bridge. The world is moving towards more empathetic engagements. If we fail to adapt, we risk becoming obsolete. Mr. Johnson's face hardened, but Rachel noticed others nodding, their eyes lighting with the spark of shared vision. Her statement ignited something profound, tilting the room into the realm of open discourse. She felt the energy shift, grounding her in the very authenticity she had hesitated to embrace. As the meeting drew to a close, she felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. Yet, even in victory, the reverberations of Mr. Johnson's skepticism echoed in her mind. Could she weather future storms of doubt, whether from him or from within? Later, as Rachel sat at her desk, sifting through the aftermath of the meeting, a small voice nudged her internal narrative. It reminded her of the times back when she opted for silence, believing it would shield her from judgment. Those choices now seemed far removed from the woman she categorized herself as today. As days continued, Rachel became increasingly aware of the duality of her journey. The more she stood for her beliefs, the more others gravitated toward her. She began to mentor a newer employee, Lucy, who had shown both talent and trepidation. Relating to her own past, Rachel took the opportunity to guide Lucy in a way she had longed for herself. But with mentorship came new challenges. One afternoon, Lucy approached her in a hushed tone. "I heard Mr. Johnson's not happy with the direction our pitches are taking. People are worried." Rachel felt that unease ripple through her. Did her attempt to be true to her values jeopardize her standing? She took a moment to breathe, channeling the self-trust Dr. Hartman had encouraged. "If I compromise now, I'll never fully step into the leader I aspire to be," she murmured, knowing the echoes of a past self also haunted her. With mounting determination, Rachel decided to call a team meeting. She was prepared to address the concerns about Mr. Johnson, to actually confront the implications of her recent actions. But now she understood that vulnerability wasn't a reason for hesitation, it was a catalyst for growth. As the meeting approached, she felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. What would she say? Would her leadership be validated? Or would she find herself fighting an uphill battle for her vision? Rachel rested her hands on the conference room table, gazing around at her team. She sensed their willingness to support a new direction. The decision that loomed was significantly different from the one she had faced weeks ago. This time, it wasn't just about standing up for her beliefs. It was about fighting for a future that included others. The moment of truth arrived as she prepared to share her strategic vision, when Lucy leaned in and whispered, "What if this turns into a loss for you?" No, it was no longer about the fear of loss, but the pursuit of authenticity. Would she embrace not just her own personal development, but also lead her team into a transformed workspace? The unease between excitement and dread quivered as she stood at the brink of yet another critical confrontation. "Let's talk about who we are going to become together." Rachel initiated the meeting, ready to explore the unknown once more, knowing the stakes were higher than ever. The words hung in the air, hinting at the journey ahead, one that could redefine everything once more. The moment of confrontation was inevitable, and it would soon arrive in a way that would challenge her deeply held convictions about leadership. Rachel's voice pierced the tense atmosphere, steady yet tinged with an unmistakable urgency. "Today, I want to discuss how we can redefine our approach and align it with the emotional needs of our clients." Her words sparked a ripple of tension among her colleagues. She had crossed a threshold, but the slight anxious fidgeting of Lucy beside her indicated the undercurrents of fear running through the room. The choice she had made to lead with vulnerability now required her to navigate potential pushback. "Emotion does not detract from professionalism, it enhances it," Rachel continued, emboldened by Lucy's hopeful gaze. "We have the opportunity to become a team that truly understands our clients, rather than merely treating them as numbers." Mr. Johnson's disapproving glare dug deeper than before. His resolve was palpable, and Rachel recognized that this was not just a meeting, it was a pivotal moment. The stakes were not only high for her, but for her whole team. "I've done the research," she pressed on, her pulse racing. "Markets are evolving, and the companies that excel are those who cultivate connection. Studies show a direct correlation between empathetic strategies and improved client loyalty." Resistance crackled. A hand shot up. Tom, a senior colleague who thrived in the status quo. "Is this really a risk we can afford to take? We already have a successful formula. Why fix what isn't broken?" Tom's assertion hung in the air. But instead of retreating, Rachel leaned forward, her heart pounding with both fear and determination. "Because maintaining the status quo may lead us to stagnation. Isn't it our responsibility to not just react, but anticipate where the market is heading? Are you suggesting we abandon what works in favor of some idealistic vision?" he challenged, scoffing lightly. "Not at all. I'm advocating for advancement through compassion," Rachel affirmed, her resolve solidifying further. "If we adapt and invest in relationships now, we prepare ourselves for the challenges of tomorrow." A flicker of doubt crossed a few faces, but Rachel's assertiveness liberated her voice, encouraging others to join in. The conversation began to shift into a dialogue of possibilities rather than a confrontation. "Let's think about our past successes," another teammate chimed in. "When we were personally involved with clients, we thrived. I remember how we landed that big contract last year. The client felt connected, like we truly understood their unique needs." The tide of discussion evolved into a brainstorming session filled with ideas and excitement. Rachel felt a rush of adrenaline as she encouraged her team to envision a more human-centered strategy. She facilitated the back and forth, embracing the dynamic exchange without suppressing their anxieties. Yet the tension remained, gnawing at her confidence. What if they were only presenting an ideal that wouldn't translate into results? The ghost of self-doubt loomed, whispering its discontents every time Mr. Johnson cleared his throat to remind them of his presence. As they wrapped up, Rachel felt exhilarated but also terrified. She had led them to challenge their traditional frameworks, yet the prospect of failure hung ominously, reminding her of her mentor's warning about high stakes. "Let's schedule a follow-up meeting to solidify our steps," Rachel suggested. But doubts lingered. Was she steering them toward innovation or vanity? After the meeting, alone in her office, Rachel wrestled with her internal monologue. Had she pushed too far? Did she risk their livelihoods for an untested theory? Inspiration and hesitation danced in her mind. Each step she took toward innovation felt precarious. Lucy walked in, fresh eyes, full of admiration. "That was incredible! I never thought I'd feel so passionate about our direction," she exclaimed. Rachel smiled weakly. "I hope it resonates with others as much as it resonated with you." But her thoughts remained turbulent. Was her passion enough to rally the team against the looming skepticism of Mr. Johnson? Could she genuinely transform their approach without sacrificing their stability? As she wrestled with these questions, an idea began to solidify in her mind. Could she find a way to present her vision to Mr. Johnson not as a confrontation, but as an invitation to explore new possibilities together? The thought lingered, demanding to be investigated. Confronting Mr. Johnson was inevitable, but how would she do so gracefully, without pushing him into an adversarial corner? The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but Rachel could sense the momentum of change brewing, both within herself and her team. The morning sun poured in through the hospital's windows, casting warm rays upon Rachel as she prepared for the pivotal meeting with Mr. Johnson. Today wasn't just any meeting, it was the culmination of her growth, a test of her resolve to redefine what leadership meant to her and her team. It felt fitting that she wore her newly tailored blazer, one she had chosen specifically to represent a blend of professionalism and authenticity, a reflection of who she wanted to become. As she walked to Mr. Johnson's office, Rachel reflected on the path that had brought her here. Previously, she had felt like an imposter, afraid that ambition would overshadow her mother's legacy. Now she embraced her strengths, her unique perspective colliding with the fears that had once paralyzed her. This was her moment to confront those lingering doubts and reshape them into a source of power. Once in his office, she took a breath and knocked softly. Mr. Johnson's composed voice invited her in, and she stepped over the threshold, firm in her purpose. The familiar scowl across his face gave way to a flicker of surprise as he paused at her confident entrance. "Ms. Parker," he began, his tone betraying a hint of skepticism. "You wanted to discuss recent strategies." "Yes, I did," Rachel replied, her voice resolute. "I've been reflecting on the feedback from the team meeting regarding our approach with clients. I strongly believe we have an opportunity to shift toward a more empathetic strategy that could ultimately enhance our success." Mr. Johnson frowned slightly, leaning back in his chair. "Empathy is great in theory, but can it deliver results? We are a business that operates on performance." Rachel felt the familiar flutter of doubt in her stomach, but quickly steadied herself. She was no longer just defending a concept, she was advocating for a vision that tied back to her own life and experiences. "I understand the need for results, and empathy can be woven into the fabric of performance. Research has shown that businesses focusing on emotional relevance significantly retain clients." Drive engagement. I'd like to present some data points illustrating the success of empathy-led strategies in healthcare. He regarded her critically, clearly weighing her confidence against his seasoned skepticism. "And what makes you think you're equipped to lead this charge?" The challenge hung in the air, occupying space with Rachel's heartbeat. "I believe my experience as a compassionate caregiver uniquely positions me to bridge the gap between clinical expertise and patient connection. I want other staff members to learn how empathy can propel us forward and ultimately enhance patient experiences. A blend of human and professional innovation that respects our shared mission. A long moment of silence stretched between them as Mr. Johnson absorbed her words. Rachel could see the wheels turning in his mind, and for the first time her heart swelled with the knowledge that she had spoken her truth. "Well, let's see this data," he finally replied, wave after wave of tension slowly dispersing. "If you can make a solid case for why this approach could benefit our bottom line, I may consider allowing a trial run of this method." The corners of Rachel's mouth uplifted, a smile breaking through the weight of uncertainty. "Absolutely. I'll gather detailed insights over the next few days, outlining actionable steps our team can take." As she left his office, a sense of elation poured over her. She had navigated a conversation that held not just professional implications, but personal revelations. Beyond the sterile hospital walls, she was beginning to understand that the anxieties intertwined with her professional success no longer dictated her self-worth. The following weeks unfolded with exhilarating speed. Armed with research and newfound confidence, Rachel presented her proposal to the team. Each member, once hesitant about the departure from the norm, became increasingly engaged, inspired by her unwavering belief in their ability to innovate together. Her leadership resonated deeply. She not only inspired her colleagues, but also fostered an environment where they felt empowered to contribute. As discussions veered into team workshops focused on enhancing empathetic communication with patients, a lovely cafe atmosphere began to cultivate, distinct from the sterile professional realm they had once known. While efforts to integrate empathy into strategy resonated, Rachel discovered a glaring truth. Each step forward required that she confront her past, the complexities of her mother's legacy that she had long evaded. One evening, after a fulfilling workshop, Rachel sat at home sifting through her mother's old journals, documents filled with dreams and sacrifices. She felt as though each page spiraled her further into a genuine connection with the woman who had preceded her. It was time to reconcile those struggles into her leadership narrative, integrating those personal experiences of legacy into actionable, positive changes within her professional world. At the next evaluation meeting, Rachel stood before a group of her peers and presented the tangible successes their shifts had generated. "Our pilot program on empathetic outreach yielded a 30% increase in patient satisfaction ratings," she shared, the pride in her voice unmistakable. "Not just that, but by embracing what my mother taught me about connection, I believe we can cultivate deeper relationships with our clients that transcend transactions." Applause broke across the conference room, an exchange of energy and acknowledgement. Mr. Johnson's nod of approval echoed Rachel's internal triumph. She realized she had not only achieved professional recognition, but had also transformed her relationship with her past. In embracing her mother's shadows, she could stand proud, fully herself, confident, competent, and genuine. As Rachel stepped into the halls of Willow Creek Hospital, the whispered judgments of her peers vanished in the wind. She was no longer just a nurse fighting against stigmas. She had become a leader, a beacon of empathy and innovation, leading her team toward a brighter future. With every realization and achievement, she had proven that ambition could coexist with compassion. The shadows of her past had merely illuminated the path forward. This newfound clarity propelled her deeper into her career, where the experiences she had once seen as burdens morphed into strengths that would guide her path. "Be authentic," she had said to her team, but now she understood the weight of those words on a personal level. Rachel's transformative journey culminated not only in leadership, but in self-acceptance. She stood on the precipice of her future, eager to explore the vast scope of her capabilities that lay ahead, resolute in the understanding that her story, both personal and professional, would continue to unfold. Each day was both a challenge and a celebration of how far she had come. Now, as Rachel moved forward in her career, she was equipped not only with strategies, but with the heart to face each challenge ahead. It was not merely survival or ambition, it was fulfillment on her own terms. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.